No! No! No!
What is up, all you ghosts out there? This is it, baby. You know what we're here to do. Macabre over here, mindful over here. Smash them bitches together, and what do you get? The Horror Pop Extravaganza. I am Pops Ghostly, and my co-host today, as always, is
Ash to mouth.
Ash to Mouth.
Ash to mouth. Pronounce it correctly.
Ray, where does that hail from? To mouth. To mouth. Where does that come from? I don't know, but
Swedish.
It's Swedish.
Ash to
I
mouth.
love it. Well, Ash, we got a super cool one today, man. A super cool one. So you came to me recently and you're like, hey, I connected with this dude, because you have mentioned before on the show, you'd been on some productions and shit like that. You're like, hey, shit's happening in Spokane over here, da da da. You're like, I want to check this movie out. And I'm like, right on, dude. Let's give this thing a go. You send me this thing and you say, hey, I got this guy who yammed us to talk about it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I go to pull this thing up. And I'm like, fuck, 3 hours. Like, it's gonna be a commitment. However, I'm going to stop right there and say I'm super excited to meet the dude who's with us here today. One, because I really fucking liked this thing, man. And I want to talk about it quite a bit because it touched on a lot of different things for me. But then on the flip side, it's always such an honor and a pleasure to have somebody who's actually in the industry be here, talk about it. So we've got the one and only Mr. Nick Shargas here with us today, who's gonna kind of hopefully just spill all the beans, dude. I want all the behind the scenes and shit. But to talk about this movie he was tied to. And I'm going to let you do the full intro on the movie, Mr. Ash to Mouth. But before that, Nick, thank you so much for being here, dude. We can't thank you enough, and welcome to the Horror Pop Extravaganza.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Jason's a good friend. Definitely, we've worked on a few things together. He's great to work with. So I'm happy, very, very happy to be here, but also super stoked to be doing this with Jason as well.
Oh, right on, man. I love that shit. I love that shit. So before we dive into this and I let him introduce the movie and what we're going to be talking about, why don't you give us, if you don't mind, just a little bit of backstory on you? Let me hear about young Nick, who is fresh out of his, crap in his pants and sees his first movie and is like, fuck, I fell in love with this thing. Or where was it for you, that fire that went off that said, I want to pursue this storytelling art form, this visual art form, and I want to do this, for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I mean, originally I would say it's like it started with skateboard videos. I was like 12 years old and I was never good enough at skateboarding, so I was always the guy holding the camera. And then I eventually started editing those videos, and then I stopped doing it for a while. And then I took that like high school test where they the thing that gives you like the careers.
Yeah.
And that one was like #1 on my list, filmmaker. And I completely ignored it. I was just like, no way, it's not possible. Also, I was like an athlete in high school, so that took up a lot of my time. And whenever you're an athlete younger, I feel like you're always expecting that to like work out, even though that's even a bigger pipe dream than the movies, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then eventually, I tried so many other things, and then I went to college, couldn't figure out what I want to do, and eventually just came up with film. It was like the only thing I could see myself actually like doing without wanting to
jump off a building or something.
Yeah, jump off
like
a
that.
bridge.
Sure, man. And Ass to Mouth and I have talked a lot about I'm gonna have so much fun saying this over the course of that. But we've talked a lot about that over the course of these, 70 episodes or so, finding that thing where you can get lost in it. And it's like, okay, this makes sense a little bit. And if you can translate that into something that can support you monetarily, put a roof over your head, put a little bit of coin in your pocket and food in your belly, that's an awesome thing, dude. So where did you go to school at?
I first went Stadium High School. I should give a big shout out to too, because that's
Stadium.
10 Things I Hate About You was from there.
Right on, dude. That is fucking cool. So yeah, Stadium High, man. That's right.
So like that, I mean, that kind of drove interest too. We had a really cool like drama like teacher and like what do you call it? Like program there. They spent a lot of money on the theater at Stadium after the earthquake in like I think it was in 2001. And
Yeah, yeah.
the school is technically a historical landmark because it used to be an old hotel that they converted into a public school.
Oh, that's
So
right.
they like sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, 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 you're good. So your high school, yeah, they have this good program for drama and
Yeah.
theater and stuff like that, for sure.
And then after that, that's in Tacoma. And then after that, I went over to Spokane and I guess technically Cheney, so Eastern Washington University, and they have a great film program there. And
Right
I
on.
I I will praise that program so much because a lot of programs will try to get you into like one department, which I mean, it's going to be good for money.
Sure.
You'll get into departments faster that way, but you're not going to be well-rounded. This program like forced you to do a little bit of everything. You're not going to graduate unless you do a little bit of everything. And
That-
I think it makes good filmmakers. So.
yeah, yeah, right on. Is there anyone, like a specific director that you look to and you're like, yo, that cat speaks to me? He's somebody who speaks my language a little bit. And if I'm putting too many questions at you, forgive me. I'm just very interested, man. Very, very
No,
interested.
that's a good question. I think Kevin Smith is up there. I was big on Mumblecore growing up. I one of my high school jobs beside I worked at Zoomies and then the other one was Blockbuster. So I was all about my perks. I got my free rentals and my skateboard for free basically.
Yeah, man. I did a video store gig right before I left for the military, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. I
Yep.
fucking loved it. That and a movie theater. I worked at a theater at like 16, was an usher, slung popcorn. But as an usher, you had to make sure the reels were running right. So you have to stand in the theater and watch for like, 10 minutes or so. So if you planned that shit right, you could like watch a whole movie over like 3 or 4 shifts, just or like 5 movies. You could just catch them all at the right time, and it was good. But
Huh.
Kevin Smith, we are both Jason and I. I saw Jason Lee is coming to Astronomicon over here, and I recently had them sign like all my mall rat shit and my clerk stuff, but he ended up having to bail out, so I'm hoping to go catch him. And yeah, and I can see some. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But awesome, dude. I don't want to let this thing run super long, so I'm gonna move us forward a little bit. But seriously, again, thank you for fucking being here. Let's have a great time. Everybody listening, this is what life is about. Connect with real people in a real way. And have conversations, man. Just open up, learn about people, and fucking let's rock and roll. So, Mr. Ash to Mouth, why don't you introduce this? Everybody involved in bringing this thing to life, how we got here, why we're sitting here talking about it. And I already did read the IMDb, but I want you to read it too because I feel like we talk shit on IMDb all the time about their, poor write ups and things like that. This one might be the simplest we've run into yet that I feel like does this beast no justice whatsoever. So lay it on us, Ash to Mouth. Put it out there. What are we talking about? Who made it happen?
This movie is called Beloved Beast from 2018. It's rated R. It's 2 hours and 53 fucking minutes.
Oh, ah.
Directed by Jonathan Holbrook. And what I want to know, Nick, I mean, this has got a lot of great actors, but it's not going to mean anything to most people because they don't have a huge body of work. They're more like local people. I would just like to throw it off to you and you tell us like how you got involved with this film and how you went from, because when I was working with you, you were a PA just like me, but you did some directing or some first AD work on this?
Yes, yep. I originally came into this. I hit Jonathan up on Facebook message. I literally graduated college and hit this guy up on Facebook and was just like, someone told me you were doing a film this summer. I just graduated. I want to be involved. I originally was just gonna come on and be a PA. And then they had like no, it was so bare bones. He had an AD and basically the director who's also, he plays the villain in the film too. So like he was taking on way too much. And I was just like, all right, dude, I will uh I eventually got promoted to first AD. I got credited as a producer, I think, as well, and a cam op. But I mean, realistically, it's just all hands on deck on this film. Like,
Right.
I had hands-on lighting. Sometimes I am directing because the director is in the scene and he can't look at the camera as he's in the scene. So it's like, and a lot of those are the action scenes too, which is kind of, so I got kind of, it was a really, really good experience, but also kind of a terrible experience to have that like right out of college because I got my hands on so many fun things to do.
Right.
And then I have to go back into this role where it's like, because when you're on these big sets, because this is an indie set, and I think one thing that people need to understand is it's so different on an indie set compared to like these big union sets, and everybody's got their role, and you're really not allowed to like kind of step over your role because there's somebody else that's paid to do that role, and it's so specific.
And if I can jump just for 1 second, and I think you can see that in this. And I wanted to speak to that, that passion of it. And indie filmmaking gives me a cinema boner. Like George Romero, fucking Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, even I got a chance to meet Roger Corman and sit and listen to him talk for a while. And I'm like, dude, that's the best. He's like, the cops would just start running up and would be like, film it, and then try and run away before they could catch us. And I'm like, dude, that's the best. But this, even the Sam Raimi being from Michigan, Evil Dead is one of my favorites and has been a long time. But these guys were like, yo, we were shooting real shotguns through the wall and shit. But this idea of people coming together collectively and creating something bigger than the individual pieces. But like you said, when you were talking about college, they taught me to do all these different things, which is amazing. But to have that kind of hands on, that had to have been so cool, man, to be like, people who are there to make this thing happen. Like, let's do this shit.
It's, to be honest, like I reached out to Jason to talk about this film because I haven't got to talk about it. Like it's probably my favorite project that I've worked on.
I would say for good reason, dude. I'm excited to get into the bones and nitty gritty, but please continue with how you got connected to these people and how it all went down.
I'll say this to everybody. Anybody that wants to get in the industry or do anything, honestly, anything you want to do, just reach out to people because everything that's been cool that I've done in my career, it's because I've reached out to people just on social media, and people are super open to just like letting you either help out, right? You just to act, volunteer. Eventually, it will turn into something else. But yeah, so I reached out to him on Facebook, and just kind of climbed on board. And he had, he had a good team behind him. He had Earl and Dave Schetzer. Earl just should say this, or do we want to save that for later?
Yeah, we can. If you want to mention it now, yeah, absolutely.
I'll mention it.
Talking about it more later, yeah.
Yeah, I'll mention it just now. Just he passed away a couple of days, so I just wanted to say,
yeah,
he's very missed.
Yeah.
Anyways, he had a good team behind him, and those guys, they're actors in the thing too. Pretty much all the actors had to help at some point because it's just me, him. And yeah, that was basically it as crew. So it was a lot of fun. It makes you feel it a lot more, I feel like, too. The performances, I think you feel a little bit more too because of that. People are a little bit more
intimate. Know each other, and you can feel a lot of that intimacy. But like you said, in some of the performances. Now, did you know out of the gate anything about the project? Like, this is going to be a big, massive 3-hour movie, or were you just like, "Yo, dude, I want to hop on. Let's roll, homie. Like, I'm trying to get in."
Yep.
Like
Just
that.
hopped on. No idea. I didn't even know. I just knew it was a horror, right? And I was stoked for that because independent film and I think low budget film lends itself to the horror genre more than any other genre. So,
and you look at somebody like a Damien Leone who, just crushed 83 million, I think, global box office take on Terrifier 3 on a $2 million budget. Your people like your Wes Cravens and your Toby Hoopers, your George Romeros. Horror is that awesome playground for people to cut their teeth. But at the same time, I think you bring the right creative minds into that, your John Carpenters and Deborah Hills, and you start, it's a great place to talk about bigger ideas and, social ideas. And it's a place to have some fun too. I've always argued that horror and comedy are so close together. They're so tight knit, it's like you set expectations up, you subvert the shit out of them, and people are like, either or ha ha ha. But yeah, I think horror is a great place for anybody. And how many careers has it launched? I mean, as far as acting careers, there's just a list that could go on and on and on. So So I'm sorry, I just got caught up for a second there. We talked a little bit before we started recording, but you did mention a movie that I want to bring up really quick as we were talking back and forth. One of your big influences, and I'll kind of let you cue that up. You know, how old were you? Where were you sitting? Were you in a living room? Were you at a movie theater? Do you even remember
I,
all of those kind of things?
yeah. So, okay, this was actually I caught on to Donnie Darko actually later in life because it was, it was a cult classic. It wasn't one that was like in, I mean, maybe I think it did have a
It had a
theatrical release.
small, real small
Yeah.
theatrical run. Yeah. It didn't pick up until it hit physical media and people started talking about it and then it started like wildfire.
So back, I worked at Blockbuster, and my coworker, we would always just recommend movies to each other, and his taste was very different than mine. My taste was very different than his, and he got me onto Donnie Darko, and it turned in probably my favorite movie ever. The ending is like my favorite ending of all time for a movie. I don't want to spoil it for people
Right,
that
right.
haven't seen it,
Uh,
but it's just it leaves a note that like it hits hard, and it's why I like film. It's because and art to be in general, just art makes you think, and that's I like working on things that make people think.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. I do. I feel artists, people who do art for a living and people who have that art kind of natural draw towards it. It's trying to figure out life. Like you can see people trying to figure out the human condition through these. And when I saw this thing running at 3 hours, one of my favorites of all time is Seven Samurai. I'm an Akira Kurosawa guy. I love that shit. When a
Mhm.
big movie's done right, when the pacing's done well, I don't care. I'm like, tell me a big long story. Let's sit around the campfire for a minute. Tell me this thing. And with Beloved Beast, I think you guys fucking nailed it, dude. Like at first, I'm like, okay, Jason, what the fuck did you get me into, dude? Like I gotta watch a low budget thing that's gonna be 3 hours long. Because I am someone who is a horror guy at heart, but a lover of cinema across the board. And I love, low budget trash horror. I love trauma. I'll sit there and watch Hectic Knife all day. So I'm all for it. And then I turn this thing on. I'm like, okay, I can see. And if you don't mind me asking, do you recall what the total budget was for the production, like as a whole?
It's I will say it's a no too slim budget. I
Okay,
would
yeah. If
say
you don't want to say anything, but no to Slim, that's as I was watching this, I was like, dude, I wish I had like, $5 million to throw at this thing because as I continued to watch, I'm like, this is a fucking Coen Brothers movie, dude. Like, I was just sitting down with my homie the other night. He had never seen Eraserhead last night. And I'm a big, big David Lynch fan. Everything the dude touched for me, and I'm big into the meditation and things like that. I think he was just an awesome creative force in the world. But we sat and watched Eraserhead, and everybody who watches Eraserhead the first time, it's like, what the fuck did I just watch? But even in this, I was seeing, these elements and these angles, like, stuff that I'm like, okay, this is different. And then 2 hours into it, I'm like really sucked and engrossed into this story. And I'm like, tell me more, tell me a little bit more. I'm feeling like some Twin Peaks stuff going on with this haunted town, and everything's kind of corrupted. I would have watched 10 episodes of this as a series. I would have liked to have seen more of these characters. The mad Belgian dude, I would have liked to see more of that. Maybe see dude in the mask, the fucking gimp, get fucked up a little bit because he was terrifying with his robot
yeah.
voice, like, but there's so much going on here, man. And it's on the show, we tend to just walk through the movie from start to finish. I would love to do that with you. This one might run a little bit longer just because of the runtime, but there's so much cool shit to unpack here. And now that I got all of that out of me, thank you again for being here, dude, because it's not often that something like this gets presented to me. When we did our other podcast, those movie guys, I mean, I've seen more movies, kind of like you. It sounds like, anything, I will watch it and take it in. People, what are you going to recommend? And so it's rare for me where something stands out and is like really, kind of has me in this place. And this did. Is it perfect? No movie is perfect. Well, maybe there's a couple I'll argue like Jaws. Fucking, I love Jaws so much, dude. It's a good, but yes, nothing is perfect. But is this a standout that I wish more people were talking about? I threw the money at it on iTunes. I bought it, so I own a copy now,
We
so I'll be able
appreciate
to
that.
watch it. Oh, for sure, dude. I'm gonna be recommending this to people. But
Oh,
I've got
like,
and I know a lot of people all over the country and all over the world actually, with like Josh and shit, who used to listen to the podcast. Um, but yeah, I'm going to be recommending this, sending it out to people and saying, yo, spend the whatever it was that I picked it up on iTunes, buy it, support this shit because we need more like this. And I want to see this thing, and I hate to say it, but budget is it's such a hard thing to, and especially when you're doing something psychological like this, it's bigger than just a fucking, at first I was like, oh, we're getting a slasher movie. And then I'm like, oh, wait. I'm getting a flavor, a little something else. And then I got the most heinous shit going on, and I got some great black comedy with dude ordering a fucking foo-foo drink while he's sitting there talking about doing the most brutal thing ever.
okay.
Yeah, so
I'm
let's.
just sorry. I want to say this. The
Oh yeah.
donut scene. The
Oh,
donut scene. I love it. We'll probably get to it later, but yeah, that was
so
like,
why don't we start? Why don't we start talking about kind of how this thing opens up, and yeah, man, why don't you take us into it? Take us into this baby that you got to be a part of.
okay, yeah. Crap. First scene.
The first thing is the reading. We get some of the reading of we are introduced
Okay, yeah.
to the Rabbit King. Yeah, the Rabbit King
Yep.
is as a character, and I think we see dude maybe walk in, and we get the slow wherever we're at. It is
Yep.
very you can see the Pacific Northwest in there, and I love it because I lived out there for a long time, Oregon and
That's
Washington, and yeah.
so Ty. Yeah, I should say this. The narrator, Ty Anderson, great voice, great
Oh,
voice.
dude, awesome,
Uh,
dude.
yeah. So yeah, he narrates throughout the film, and yeah, man, his voice just I think it sets it up really well.
And
But
that's
yeah,
you think about things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Monster Squad, which is a love. I love that movie way too much. There's something cool about a cool narration leading you into a movie. There's something fun about it. I was just talking to my wife when a trailer popped up for something on TV, and I'm like, I miss trailer guy voice so much. I miss him, dude. Because he told you a story like way deep in the woods. Some shit's about to go real big. But now it's just like bang, bang, bang. But we do get that cool kind of, and I was like, okay, now we even have some kind of, almost Eastern European early folklore stuff
yeah.
going on and Grimm's type fairy tales. And I do want to know right out of the gate, is Harvey inspired by Jimmy Stewart, dude? Please tell me that was a part of the name for him getting the heart.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. That was like a little Easter egg, yeah, he put in
yeah.
there. There's a lot of like all the
Oh,
bunny
all the
stuff
stuff
too.
on the walls, like, Peter Rabbit books all over the place. And yeah, but we do,
The
we opened up on this, this cool narration. Like you said, the voiceover it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next scene after that, I think cuts into her in the car accident, right?
We see the
It
guy on
goes
the
straight
side
to
of the
that.
road. He's
Okay.
hysterical, all beat up. Like I didn't even see him come in. And then we do see our officer, and I can't remember his name, but I love the deputy, dude. The deputy and the chief, those two together, I think has
Yep.
such awesome back and forth. But we see the flashlight on her, like, hey, are you okay, sweetie? We're gonna help you. And then
Yep.
we jump pretty quick to her aunt, which this is where I felt Coen brothers, dude. This is where I felt a little Quentin Tarantino, where these are like some piece of shit characters in a lot of ways. They're very real people. Like this girl gets a child dumped on her and she's like, well, I'll put her to bed and we're gonna get fucked up tonight. Like he's
Yep.
coming over and um
Real
yeah.
quick, Nick, I
No.
want to know about the car accident because for such a low budget film,
Yep.
IMDb lists this thing as $7,000. So that's
Yeah.
micro budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get two smashed cars and put them together to make that accident scene happen?
I don't. So this is Dave and Earl and Jonathan's producer skills. They got a location, and I think it was a wreck yard or it was a tow yard. I can't remember which. I think it was a tow truck company that had a wreck yard. And it was so long ago. I wish I could remember the name of the company.
I
It's
guess we
definitely
are
in the
coming up
credits.
on almost a decade. Yeah, when you think
Yeah.
about it realistically, yeah, we're closer to 10 years than when you made it. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But they were awesome. And So we were just in their like front part and so you can still see the road. So we kind of set it up so it looked like it was still kind of on a road, but we're really in a parking lot. We just set up all, set up the light. I did the lighting for that. And then, getting the doing that. I was so sketched out about the putting her through the window with
Yeah.
like it was safety glass, but even safety glass like at that angle isn't great. So it's just like but it looked great. It looked really
It
good.
did. Yeah.
And it definitely it's a good opening, especially with the budget that we had. It's good to throw a little bit of budget right
Yeah.
there just off the bat so people are like, okay.
Right. And I think there was a little bit of a breath right there. If I'm being
Yeah.
honest with you, it was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like I've seen super low budget that's not done well, and I've seen super low budget that's done well, where the money is used effectively. And you work within the confines of what you have. It almost forces your hand a little bit. As a tattoo artist, I look at it all the time. I'm like, I have to deal with whatever canvas I have, but let's make the coolest thing we can with the canvas that we have. And you guys did that, dude. You really did that. And the car crash, we see this dude, and I love all the quirkiness of the characters and how they kind of, this is Nina's story in at least the way I viewed this thing. Everything, even though she might not be full screen time. And kudos to this kid who played this character because she had to carry a lot of weight, man.
Yeah.
And
She's
go ahead, please.
she's unreal. She was really young. I can't remember exactly how young she was. I think I want to say she was like 12 or 13 at this. Like she was really young and great to work with the whole time. And this was an intense shoot for especially for her too, 'cause she's in basically everything.
And how long
Uh
were you guys? How long was the actual, photography portion of making it?
so okay, I gotta think about this. I graduated in what, June? So it was like from like June. I think did a scene in like June and July. I missed like the first two scenes. So like the hospital, the first scene when he escapes the hospital and the lady's screaming. I
Oh,
wasn't a
yeah,
part
yeah.
of that at all. And I probably would have told them there's too much white. Like I would have like we need to add color to this room somewhere.
Right.
That was like one of my big things. Like if I was there, I would have tried to do that. But
Sure.
yeah, it's funny because like I'll see the scenes that I'm not like I didn't get to be part of the cafe scenes, which I'm kind of bummed out because those look
Those are
great.
cool, man. Yeah, those were
Yeah.
really cool. And I even love
Um,
some of the wherever, like you said, the tow yard or the trucking company, the interiors on the back shelving and things like that. And you've got tools everywhere and very authentic. As somebody who grew
yeah,
up in the Midwest and been around places like that my whole life, if I was like, yeah, that's a real garage. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's not just like,
Oh,
oh, we're in my friend's garage and hung a couple tools on the wall and then hung out.
yep.
And a lot of these cool shots, even starting early on during this point, where you're hanging on to things for a couple seconds, and you do have this misdirection. And I love there's an element later on when he says, "Why is there so many corners in this town?" He's like, there's 4 cops in 8 corners. This doesn't make any sense. He's like, "Well, fuck, place is haunted." And I'm like, I love that, dude. We're in Twin Peaks now. Like, I'm so on board with this. Like, it's just super cool. But we still have a ways to go before we get there. But her performance,
Well,
awesome.
I should touch on this with the Slew Town thing. I haven't said it yet, but the director Jonathan, has created a story world with that town. He has
Oh,
he has a few other projects out there that exist. Still was his like first big break. And that's a series. I believe it still exists on Amazon Prime. I'm not 100% sure. And then
that's
he did another one
awesome.
called Tall Men, which I think I yeah, I saw it was like a Slenderman type of thing, I think. I
So like a
can't
modern urban folklore, something along those lines.
it was different though. It was weird too. It was like Slenderman but like way different. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard to
yeah,
explain. But yeah, so he's created this because you kind of touched on it a bit. Like all these characters are kind of unlikable.
right.
And it's
And
weird to
they're
see
beat to
that.
shit for no reason. Like sometimes I'll be like, how did she get in the neck brace? Like, I want to know that story. Like she's wandering around like, hey, falling in love with no dick. And I love when she
Yep.
called him no dick. She's like, yeah, he's got no dick. Talking to her niece that she just met. But that's cool, man. The idea of, and now is he continuing, or do you know if he has any ideas to do more, like to continue after this one?
So I don't know if he plans on going back to that story world anytime soon. The last, I mean, me and him talk every once in a while. The last time I talked to him, he was working on like a Viking Norse type of film,
Right on.
is what he was working on writing. But I know he's trying to dip more into front of camera now. He's trying to act more. Speaking of, like we were talking about the lead, Nina Sine, her dad just produced a movie called The Death of Snow White, which was done over on the West Side too, kind of with a lot some of the same cast from Beloved Beasts as well. And yeah, so he was in that as a henchman, so he's been acting more,
Oh,
which
right
is
on. Good for
I
him,
think
though.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of a
yeah, yeah. If that's
bummer.
I mean, because this, yeah, there's some cool shit going on. So we meet Nina's aunt, who her sister, was killed in the car accident. And she just kind of brings her into the house and she's like, oh, yeah, this is my old guest room where people used to pass out after we'd party. Throws her down and is like, hey, we ain't got no food. Get you some later. And in the interim, we keep getting shots of who will later be named Harvey. At this time, I think maybe he had a name at the hospital because we
No,
do the exposition of his mother. I don't remember exactly, kind of the Ed Gein, Norman Batesy kind of thing. But go ahead.
Milton.
Milton, that's it. And him
Yep.
tromping through the woods. And it reminded me, there's this description of him. I can't remember the exact words where they describe him, but I read this book one time called The Big Head, and it was fucking gnarly, dude. It is one of the most intense things I've ever read. But it's just this giant man monster that walks around through the forest and tries to have sex with things with his humongous penis. And yeah, but anyway, it reminded me of this description, and I like him lumbering through and this having enough time to where we don't have to jump into the slashing and the hacking immediately. You gave me time to actually like some of these characters. It was more than just, the fodder that we tend to get in a lot of horror outside of some sequels. You carry some over, but I really enjoyed getting to know these characters. And like you said, the donut scene is a great example because go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, take us through the donut scene because this was a lot of fun. And that's my ears really perked up right here. I'm like, yo, this is good. Like the
Yeah.
dialogue's good. The taking us out of the like there's still normal life going on. This is the 1 cent stamp in Fargo. This is like crazy shit's happening, but this dude he knows a lot of trivial shit. So please proceed, Nick.
Yeah. So like this is the first, I believe this is the first time we meet Morgan, the detective or cop, uh, and they're just it's a really good insight in just to his character and just his witticisms, like just the random information type of person. I feel like we all have one of those friends that like I definitely do. And the story about the donuts and why they're so good as he's eating them, and then the shot where he's like looking through the donut at him. It's good stuff. Really good writing, I
And
thought.
really great writing. And yeah, he's like, that's why they had to take it out because the cake wouldn't cook all the way on all the sides. And I'm like, dude, this is great. It's the Royale with cheese. It was good like that. Like it was natural sounding dialogue that didn't feel forced or anything. And the conversation, and I love dude just stares at him the whole time. He's like, how you know all this shit? And it's, how most of us would respond, like you said, to that person. Sadly, I feel sometimes I am that person in someone's life who's just like, oh yeah, it's a fucking dysfunction. Who knows? But we do, and I was really, and that dude kind of looked like Taron Egerton a little bit. I was like, man, you got a fucking pretty face, dude. Like you're a good looking guy. I hope you keep going on with what you're doing. Um, so now after his donuts and stuff, I think relatively quick, we meet the chief as well, who I really like this guy, this rugged, old, he looked a lot like a younger, scary German guy from the Monster Squad to me. Like I couldn't help it. I was like, dude, scary German guy is fucking still alive. And I love it. And somehow got younger. Benjamin Button. So but that conversation again is really cool. A lot of it is very natural. It feels like this, and he's just, oh, I've been here, and I can see where I would want to see more of this. Like I want to see Young Chief. Like how did he learn
Yeah.
that all of this shit was, town was bad? How did he figure out that? Because he's gritty at this point. He's like, yeah, it's just fucking rotten.
Why stay? why stay?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
not leave? Like
It's
you
Derry,
must,
Maine, dude. Why do people stay in Derry? I'll never know.
right.
uh,
But yeah, no, Andrew, that's Andrew I hope I say this right. Tribulani. But I think I worked with him on one other thing, and he's just great. But he played the deadpan chief so well. Like
yeah.
just the lines, he hit them so hard. Yeah. And
And
then Morgan, yeah, just a good looking guy, and the rapport between them throughout the whole film, I love it. And he just it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Rick and Morty relationship a tiny bit. Like
I could see.
yeah.
I could absolutely see that. Yeah, because it's again, the David Lynch thing, I would feel a little bit is just like these holds on someone's face. As you can see, they're thinking like, what a fucking idiot. And it'll be like, a 3-second eye glance. And I'm like, I like that. It's just, it does it for me. It's something that does it for me. But we get to the party at the house. So Nina, she's down and out, man. She's like, fuck, my parents just died like yesterday. Social worker shows up. I can't remember her name. She's redhead, maybe an S. Forgive me. But she's like, hey, you're gonna take care of this kid. And the whole time the aunt is like super apathetic to the whole thing. She's like, so what? I'm her aunt. Like, what do you mean? I don't care. And then we do learn later on why she's so bitter. She's like a Snape, dude. Like, 'cause she got robbed of her love, and she's
Yep.
still mad about that shit. So she takes her in, and then her homegirl shows up, and they decide to have a party. She's like, I'm gonna bring some people over. And then Ash shows, it was it Ash, correct? He's the
Yep.
never say his name. And he shows up with them, and you got a little group and hang out. And I love how effective you guys were with the camera in these tight spaces, man. It's hard to do that shit. People
Yeah.
don't understand how hard it is to have very small space to get cameras where you need to put them without having reflective glass all over the place and this stuff. And
Yep.
it's very effective there, man. So kudos to you there, because even
Appreciate that.
the same interiors, you found new ways to shoot them where I was like, this is cool. But they go partying hard, and I like this as somebody who has done a lot of things over the course of my life. I felt you hit that like, okay, we're fucking tripping, dude. Like this is, and that like slow move through time that do, as somebody's kind of trailing around, and again in such a small space, do things well. But then you get to this creepiness, man, and it gets under
Yep.
your skin.
Yep.
We got these Polaroids going around, and the lady with the glasses in the 20s flapper dress, she's got a Polaroid cameras taking pictures, and then Ash takes the camera from her, goes creeping around upstairs and takes a picture of Nina while she's sleeping. And were you there for that? How is it filming shit like that? Are you guys just like, fuck, let's high five and hug because this is so gross. We got to create some fucking positivity.
I was a part of that, yeah. It's funny because it's such a you're so busy doing everything else
Sure.
that sometimes you're ignoring it a little bit
You
because you're
can't
so
get lost in
focused.
it like you do as a viewer. That
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense.
I think it makes it easier though, honestly, because yeah, I mean that is like the creep for me, that's the creepiest part of the film. That's creepier
100%.
than the dungeon part that
A
we'll see
hundred
later.
percent.
And
A hundred
yeah,
percent. That
yeah,
is the absolute creepiest. It's his, and that we get that, real low angle where he looks so towering and imposing over this innocence,
yep,
and he's thinking about it for a minute, and it's low and it's slow, and then he pulls it up, and you see him make that decision like I'm a fucking
yep,
monster. Click.
yep,
And yeah,
yep.
that's ugh.
Did you
What's
guys
up?
the baby portrait on the staircase on the way up?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you that thing was just in the house. This is creepy.
What the fuck? I thought
Really?
what?
Yeah, we were like, all right, I guess we're keeping this.
Where was this? So was this somebody's house, or was this a like a vacant place that you guys found and were able to,
This
or was it someone
these
who were like, hey, let's shoot this shit in my house? Like that's cool.
Yeah, so this we met this really cool couple. Like I know Jonathan reached out to them ahead of time. It was just like I think originally we were only supposed to be shooting there for we shot these on mostly on weekends. Over like yeah, we forgot about it was about like 3 or 4 months I think was the full shoot, but we were doing mostly just weekends. And so they would let us take over their house for the weekend. They'd usually be there and hang out with us. Again, it's so long ago. I wish I could remember the names. That's the one part of this that's like it's been so long, and it's like they
That's
were
okay.
great
Listen,
people.
listen, man. You're doing the justice right now by saying they're
Yeah,
great people. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Even if you can't name somebody, the fact that you could say they were really fucking cool people, because we often forget how many people it takes to make a movie. And sometimes
yeah.
it's, a couple people, other times I've been watching old Beavis and Butthead recently, and I'm like, fuck, you had 30 animators? Like that's you look at the amount of production and shit that goes into stuff. But it is some of those people. You think of Romero and those guys when they just brought all the locals and it was like, be zombies, dude. Please, can we paint you up and you'll walk around and all this shit. So it's nice that it's those people who, help this shit happen. It takes a lot of pieces. And that's cool.
They put up with us. I mean, like I'm gonna be honest. Like those relationships, you have to like. I'm pretty sure at one point we like paid for a hotel for them for a weekend, kind of just like as a thank you, and kind of give them a break from us too.
Right, right.
Uh, because it's you're taking over somebody's house and you're making loud noise, you're setting up lights, you're
Running
probably making a
wires
mess,
everywhere, extension
yeah,
cords are all over the place. Yeah. Oh,
shattering
that's cool.
sugar glass,
Right.
Yeah,
So thank you, people who helped that happen.
yeah,
That's awesome.
well,
But the party sequence, I love this. It was very cool, but then it leads up to that fucking grossness. And then shortly thereafter, he's like, "Hey, you need a job or some shit," and she's like, "Yeah, I got a car," and yada yada. And then we're introduced to his. I think it's been a few months before he was going to meet the Belgian, but he was on probation, I think is what they called it. Uh,
yeah,
he shows up there and is like, "Oh, hey, guy." Uh, fuck. Again, this is so hard for me, especially as a dad of daughters. He's like, "I got this fucking, you want any piece of this?" And that's where this is again. It takes you so far out where you're like, there's a whole nother story here. There's a network of this shit because they talk about you can't go local, you can't take local people. They've been bringing them in, I think, from Iowa or something like that. Uh, I got to jump back real quick. I forgot to tell about the friend, her blonde-headed friend, talking about her dead
yeah,
kid, dude. That performance was fire. She,
yeah. Tabitha killed
she
it.
showed the fuck up, dude, and killed it with that one. And again, the shot, it's that like big close up on the face. You got this tight
Yeah,
right there. And to have that going on in your face and still to be able to deliver that, I don't think people understand what it looks like on the other side of
no,
the camera where you got people all over, lights and stuff everywhere. And
I'm
to be
just
able to show up and do
actors
that.
hate cameras that close to their face. We call them ugly shots for a reason. Like it's
Absolutely.
just it's one, you have to give a performance. Having something this like in your space is not easy to give a performance with and ignore it. And then there's the whole aspect of light and shadow, and it's like you're getting everything when you're that close. So it's
You have
yeah,
to. Yeah. Or else
yeah,
you look like a 40s like Frankenstein's monster or something from which that's also something this gave me a very, very cool vibe of, the relationship of the little girl and the monster. And I think there's more. To be honest with you, as soon as I was done with this movie, I was like, I want to turn it on again and now I want to pick it apart. I want to see what
yeah.
I can connect, if there's any more dots and stuff, because I was that interested in it. I'm like, I want more of this. But their relationship was so cool, and between that in Frankenstein and in those, young Frankenstein, we wouldn't see it so much. Maybe even more in Monster Squad, where she really does befriend the monster and like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys over here, dipshits. And she's holding on to the monster, but it seemed like they almost had a connection even prior to them physically coming together in space and time. Like there was, and maybe that's me just looking too deep, but at the same time, I was like, I hope it's there because I really like that. There was something pulling those two in some way, but maybe I'm wrong again. And it could have been some of her, her concussion. I think they said she had one, but she'd have these spells, and then there was, yeah,
I
just
would I'll say I definitely agree with you. I think I mean this is all just from me. Jonathan would be better to ask about this, but
oh, absolutely no, dude. Yeah, I like to. Yeah, tell me your opinion. Like
I definitely felt like there was it's like a universe thing like kind of pulled them together because if you
almost like
think
a
about it,
force. Yeah, there's some
yeah,
the force or some, for lack of a better term.
similar. They both had similar relationships. Well, I shouldn't say similar relationships with their parents. She had good parents. He had, a terrible mom, right? But they both don't have parents anymore, right? So they had that at least as a connection. Maybe that I think that's what brings them together is that maybe that pain, I guess, right?
That longing. Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of, or that, that hole that was there in each of them kind of pulling, almost like, yeah, I like it. I think it's, it played really well. And again, so much kudos to her for just slaying as that character. And him, now, how tall was he? How tall is Mill or Harvey? Was he? I know
I
they talked about him like 7 feet, but I'd call him 7 feet and put the camera down a little lower and be like, that motherfucker
yeah,
9 feet tall.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but he
And
had big presence, man, like
yeah,
wide, very lumbering and scary.
it's funny because that's Jonathan the director.
Oh, I
He
didn't
played
know that.
Milton.
I didn't know that was
Yeah.
him.
So
I think you mentioned
so
that earlier. I'm sorry, dude. That's even cooler.
I've
Yeah.
got some great if anybody goes this is a dumb plug. I don't
No,
ever
there are
update
no dumb
my
plugs, dude. There are no dumb plugs. Put your shit
it
out there in
is.
the world
I
and be
don't
like,
update my Instagram, but my Instagram has some cool pics from Beloved Beast of Jonathan being put in his makeup for
yeah,
Milton. And oh my God, it takes a whole day. It takes
dude.
a whole day.
But it looks so good that like
Yeah.
melted off and or somewhere around, we don't see that. We don't get that reveal until the very
Nope.
end for
Yep.
obvious reasons. You can't do that makeup, a whole bunch of times. You just
Yep.
can't.
We
Um,
did though.
yeah, oh, I'm sure to get it right. But yeah, the when you do get the reveal, man, it is just fucking rad. It's like
Yep.
melted, almost like cropsy a little bit from fucking, but it's or a house of wax. It looks but just big, and one eyeball's all cataracts and way over to the other side, and
Yeah.
just yeah, it
That's
looks really good
I can remember
with
her
the
name,
bunny
Rex
hat on
Harrison.
too. Oh, there
Rex
you go.
Harrison, special effects makeup. She is freaking awesome.
She killed it,
Like,
man. She killed it.
yeah. And she's pretty popular on the West Side. I'm sure she still gets tons of work. She was so fun to
Oh,
work.
because there
So
were
fun to
some
work with.
great, not a lot of on-camera deaths, which I'm not mad about because we got to see some of the cool stuff, the actual effects, like old boy getting hit with a fucking mallet and that eyeball like bulged way
Yep.
out of his head, man.
Yep.
Which is good stuff. But he, at this point, I think, is still lumbering around in the woods, and this is close to when she still has the book from her dad. And we do get a little exposition, some flashbacks of her being read to by her dad while her mom is sitting there. Like you said, very idyllic for most people, I think. They looked like very loving, caring people. And he would read her this story about, the Rabbit King. And the artwork all over this thing is cool too. You get some cool Japanese artwork. I'm like, damn, I want to find some of these artists because I know dude probably knows them. You know what I mean? And there's some really good stuff, but we see some of that, and she has the head still, this really creepy, but at the same time kind of cool rabbit head and a wooden sword, and she takes off into the woods. And then out of nowhere meets Hillbilly Rex, who comes out of the trailers. He's been like hiding out at the campground. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he takes fucking a Walkman from her, and he's like, "This shit sucks. I like Pink Floyd."
Yep.
Great dark comedy, dude.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of black comedy, and that one hit good. He takes all her stuff and essentially like, "That's the price you pay. Now get out of here. Here's your sword and your helmet." And I think this is where we see Milton sees her, and I believe starts to follow her right around here, and asked him out, you got anything you want to add? I know we've been talking a lot, dude, but you got anything? I just want to give you an opportunity real quick.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask you, Nick, about there were several parts in this movie, like the police officer had a giant radio, and she has the cassette discman and all that stuff.
Yep.
Is this supposed to take place in the past, or was it just to
Yeah.
make it otherworldly?
This is a period piece. It's we specifically picked locations where like modern buildings wouldn't be as like, wouldn't be out there as much. I'm not exactly sure what period we were going. I want to say like early 90s, maybe late 80s.
That's what it felt like. It felt like
Yeah,
late
with
80s, early 90s,
the
because
cars.
right. And the phones,
Yeah.
the telephones, look,
Yep.
there were still landlines with that kind of, everybody had that cone shaped dome fucking phone that you picked up. So yeah, and the cars though were sweet, dude. That an Eldorado has always been my dream car, like an old Cadillac Eldorado. I love them. When I saw that pull up, I was like, sick. Somebody, a friend, or it's probably that same tow yard. He was like, hey, somebody knows somebody who's got some sick cars, because there was a couple of them in it. Like all the cars were good. I'm like, this is cool,
The
dude.
cop car too. That was actually, I think, they called around, and one of the local like police stations had an old car like that, like an antique police car, and we were like, "Can we use it?" And then I think Dave actually eventually ended up buying it. So I think he owns that police car now.
That's sweet, though.
Yeah, fun fact.
That's
I'm
cool.
jealous. I would
Right.
have bought the other car if I was him though, because the other car was just it was so nice.
It was
Uh,
beautiful. And
yeah.
and I think around here we meet Ash's henchmen as well. And we see these
Yep.
kind of biker types, yeah, who are, again, could be a whole nother story about these. I would watch an hour about just that dude who ran the bar because he
Yeah.
was funny. He was funny. It was well acted. And he just, bar stories in the world of fucking this shit. And
Yep.
and these cats are really cool, kind of sons of anarchy, we're ready to do anything, but he's like, yo, you ready to do the real? And you see it on their face. I like one guy gets out of it. He's like, yo, I got to be somewhere else. I'm the only one who can handle the drop. Peace. Like, I'm not going to kidnap a little kid, even though he seemed like
Yeah.
he was down.
The
But
one that ordered the fuzzy navel
the one
was the
that,
one.
yeah, the one that, and
Yeah.
we saw what happens though if you even mention my man's name, you get a bullet to the head. There's nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very, very serious.
Very smart. You didn't say his name, so.
Right, right. And he takes off and he says, okay, I'm gonna send other girl on a run. She goes over and actually meets the driver. We don't know at first, but she
Thank
meets the
you.
driver who killed her sister and Nina's father. And he's all beat up, like taking a nap with fucking coconuts on his eyes with a Walkman on, like, or not coconuts, cucumbers. That would have been funny if it was cocaine. Anyway.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
uh, but yeah, he's
Luke
hanging
Scott.
out, and this is very kind of the same thing where he's like, yo, I got a little bag of fungi if you want to come have some fungi with a fungi, and then I'll give you the
Yep.
fungi. And her stopping at the door, I'm like, damn, dude, yeah, that's Quentin Tarantino right there, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's cool shit. The fact that she stayed to even get it just kept solidifying the fact that she is not a good person. She's
Oh,
just,
and then the call too, when because she eventually calls, and then she's like still there, kind of like lingering as he gives her the
he
yeah.
throws
No,
it around
I
her shoulder, yeah, and like barely kisses her on the cheek or some shit. And then, but I think she has met Harvey by this point because Milton goes into the garage and takes dude's coat or jacket, work, or like a mechanic's,
yep.
jacket or whatever it is.
First time we see Harvey.
Right. And that's when
Yep.
we
Which
actually see Harvey, where he's got the
yep.
name tag on. And oh, do we get to see him bashing the shit out of some people with a freaking mallet, man? Which
I
is
want to talk about the just that first scene where he gets taken out in the garage. That was a really fun day doing because I gotta do a lot of handheld camera there for a lot of that stuff. And it's hard to do that when you don't have like the expensive equipment.
right.
It's
Right.
all very manual. I'm only weight balance and I'm doing all my shifting for like focus and stuff manually without any kind of focus pull things.
Right, right,
Uh,
right. Which is
yeah,
impressive, man. Knowing that you were doing that by hand makes it even cooler, honestly, because a lot of things are, like you said, just auto and everything now. But that's
yeah,
rad. And it was cool. And we see, just like from the back, and we see the hair coming out the one side is just always like creeping me out. I'm
yep.
like, oh. And we have to mention we do get to see his mother throw a whole thing of bacon grease right on his face and then this looks like greasy strangler bacon grease. Like it is so thick and greasy. And
Oh,
we're getting the narrator where he's just like, oh yeah, plash right in your
that's
face.
fun fact. They cooked that much bacon, like that shot. They cooked that. That's actual bacon. They cooked that much bacon. They left that much like grease in the pan.
Oh,
I was so nervous the whole time. I'm like, that's a fire waiting to happen. Like,
right. Right.
yeah, I
Probably
was so
smelled
nervous.
so strong, dude. You could probably smell that from the east to the west side of the state. You cooked that
I,
much bacon, it was.
I ate a lot of bacon that day.
Oh,
Let's just
I
say
can, I
that.
can imagine. I could have. I would too, though. It's like, don't let good bacon go to waste.
Yeah, it was good.
No reason for that. But
Something I
she
always
jumped
think
in on
about on these low budget things, Nick, is do you have to go and clean up all that blood that's all over the place in between every take?
Yeah, yeah, for continuity. I mean, stuff whenever you're trying to do like the big splatter scenes, you try to nail those on first go and hope you don't have to do another take, but sometimes you just have to. Yeah. We
That's
got really lucky on this one. A lot of the stuff we just nailed.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the splatter was good. It
I
was
will say,
a
so when
lot.
he's smashing the shot from him from behind where he's just wailing on the guy's head, we actually put a watermelon down, and that's
Nice.
a dummy. So he's smashing a watermelon. That was actually pretty. I didn't mind cleaning that up. That was kind of satisfying.
Right, just to watch that happen.
Yeah.
And so but they connect pretty or no, they don't connect until she gets out in the woods with again another fucking awesome story. I want to hear about the Satanist kids who live up on the hill with the rich parents and like
Yeah.
out there murdering cats and shit. She just happens to stumble by and they're like, holy shit. The two of them are pretty into it. The third guy's like, I just want a friend, man. I didn't know you said it was animals only. I'm not
Right.
feeling this.
Yeah.
But they look at her and they're like, "Yo, we got a virgin," but she falls out first. She sees that light and kind of I don't know if
Yep.
it's the concussion
I
or
think it's a concussion thing. Yeah.
yeah, and the concussion that she had, but she falls out and they're like, "Oh, this is it. This is the next level. It's going to take us up there." And so you got the one young girl at the head of her in I do a Dembella, whatever incantation she's doing, and then he's up there ready to stab down on her, and then he looks up and there's fucking 7 foot of lumbering Harvey just ready to like smash dude right in the head, or gets the girl in the head first, and I love her twitch. Her twitch is good. I wish it was been one of my favorite things from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre since the first time I saw it. When Kurt gets hit in the head, when Leatherface thumps him, and the body does what it would do. It would probably, a little bit. And this girl plays it well, and then he gets the other kid too, and everybody's all splattery fun. And is this where he puts on I think he puts it on before she wakes up? Am I remembering
Yeah.
that correctly?
Yeah. No, she doesn't see the face. So the mask is on before she wakes up. And to be honest, I think, yeah, he gets did he take the sword too? Then I can't remember correctly.
I think he might even, yeah, I don't know if he takes it or she has it, but I know she doesn't see him without until the end.
It's the bologna sandwich I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which is a theme throughout the whole thing. I also ate a lot of bologna sandwiches throughout this production too, because nobody else would eat them, and I like bologna sandwiches. So
I grew up on bologna sandwiches. I mean, if the bologna sandwich is the bologna sandwich, let's eat them up.
yeah.
But yeah, so and then she's home alone for a while because old girl she's on the road, but her car's breaking down. That sweet bug that you guys got from somewhere. I like that. That thing was clean too. I was like, but yeah, that thing's nice. She's broke down on the side of the road on a drug run. And the cops are looking we missed the whole fisherman though. He was pretty funny too. Out there in the woods again, fucking wrapping himself all up in his rod and shit and goes to take a piss. Fuck, thump. But back at the house, it's when the blonde comes, and I can't remember her name. I feel terrible calling these people
Tabitha. But her character name is June. There we go, June.
There we go. Yeah. When she comes back and it's like, oh, I'm gonna bring food, da da da. And that's like she calls her on the phone and she's like, whatever. She's like, I gotta go by because he's hanging out now. He's there, but we see Tabitha take a fucking nice one to the dome. And then we get this almost Black Christmas where we're starting to collect bodies as trophies in a way.
I will say we did miss one scene that I
go, dude, please.
Yeah,
please.
the before that happens, there's because they kind of have these it's like almost I call it a montage of like their relationship building kind of like they have the scene. I believe the scene where she's painting his nails.
When she pink, yeah. And do they?
That was my favorite.
Out at the window, sharing a sandwich, maybe. Because I really like that too. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So like as far as like visuals go, that was probably one of my favorite spaces, just because it was very tight. It was easy to keep it dark and control the light in there. So doing silhouettes in there was like perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and just the it was also the only time where these two characters, because we talk about how the universe kind of brings them together. It's the first time they're really building that bond and kind of like, and it's very heartwarming to be honest. I love that the scene where she's painting his nails and they're kind of just talking,
Yeah.
or maybe it's quiet. I can't remember. I feel like it was quiet, but there's a little bit of words too.
And the score
Uh,
throughout this thing is cool. It's
yeah.
effective. In so many places I noticed I was like, kind of listening my ear to it. And I'm like, yo, that's good. I like that.
Yep.
Not
Shout
too
out to
overbearing or anything like that. It was really, really well done.
both the music. So the music's something fingers. There's a poster of
The
them in
poster
the
of it.
wall.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I
And then
saw that was up
also
there.
the art. You mentioned the art too. I should mention this. I believe it's Alexi Angelino or Angelo. But
I saw
she,
Alexi on one of the paintings when it was up
yep.
close, and I was like, I want to try and figure out. Yeah, okay, I'll remember that. Well, actually, I
So
have it right here. I don't have to remember shit. I can look back.
these were made for this. She's specific. So like the geisha stuff that we kept going
Yeah,
back to. I love those shots. I did those shots, and I was just like, it fits. It was it's a nice like icebreaker, I think, from some of the craziness that you
yeah.
have to.
And it gave you
Yeah.
a really cool effect when she starts eating the mushrooms and the waves are going like the way
Yeah.
Japanese are. Well, yeah, it was really cool. And the deer
Okay.
head, I like the deer head up on the wall all the time too.
Yep.
That presence
Yep.
of death that's kind of always there.
I should say this too, since we're in that room right now. There's this weird thing on the wall that I like. It's an old, I think it's like an old fire extinguisher is what it's called. But it's this like you'll see it on the wall. It's like a glass thing that hangs off the wall. It's just like a
Okay.
glass filled up with
Yeah,
water, and you're supposed to throw it to fire.
like a water bomb.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, what the heck is this thing? It's really old. The house was really old and it was just like built into the house. And it was kind of a cool thing that you see hanging there. And I feel like people are gonna like watch the film and be like, what is this thing? Like, because I didn't know.
Well, that's kind of a
Uh,
fun little note.
yeah.
That is good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just fill it up with water and chuck it. I mean, I guess if that's all you had to do, I mean, if that's all you had, why not?
I could be completely wrong. Like
We're
that's
we're
why
gonna, we're gonna stamp that with approval because it seems like an awesome thing to do. Outside of like,
right?
yeah, maybe the glass afterwards, but so
We
these two,
left off.
yeah, you're right. It's really thoughtful. Their connection seems real.
Yeah.
And I love it when they're just sitting there and you get that kind of mid shot of them looking out, at the night sky, possibly, or something like that. And they're sharing their bologna sandwiches and things. But when he kills June, that's when she's like, what did you do that for? She's trying to now control the monster a little bit. She's
Yep.
good. Everybody else was bad, but she was good. You can't do that. And he's real sad. And I want to say somewhere around here, we do know that in his mind, his mother is still present, kind of guiding his actions. Very Ed Gein in essence, that it was so beat into his skull that he couldn't do anything else about it. And they did even set him up as a kid, though. I feel like he was crazy when he's playing with the blocks right before she puts the grease on his face. And his dad maybe left, and she was like, "I can't take it. Fucking psh, there you go, Porky Pig." And uh, she now though he has somebody who he can connect with in a different way, and she has someone who's finally looking out for her. She's been attacked by everyone, and by this point I think she saw the one henchman get shot. She saw a dude take a bullet, so she knows they're bad. Her fucking aunt doesn't really want her there. The only friend she had has a bashed up face in the shrine in the outhouse or the shed outside, and she's gone through a lot. And she's like, okay, it's at least some comfort. And he
Yep.
reminded me a little bit of Lenny with the fucking rabbits from Of Mice and Men. Just kind of like,
Yep.
you got to be gentle, like you can't fucking break the rabbits, Lenny. You can't. I'm sorry, George.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that got that because like I got Lenny vibes big time from Harvey.
Oh, 100%, man. I was like, and you can I did sympathize with this character though,
Yep.
because I've always made an argument for fucking Leatherface. I'm like, if you'd have put him in a good home, he probably would have been fine. He was a
Yep.
product of his environment. Whereas this guy, I think, same thing. Milton Harvey, and I love the Harvey nod, because with Jimmy Stewart, he was a 6 foot tall bunny who was an imaginary friend who kind of helped him out with a bunch of shit. And she even when they're sitting outside, I love that scene where she just leans on him and kind of goes to sleep, on his shoulder, and he's just kind of sitting there like a big lumbering, you know.
Yep.
And now I can't remember how the cops because somebody's gone missing. We know somebody went missing from the auto store, right? And we've been
Yep.
looking for him.
He goes so okay, so yeah, the he goes back there, finds him missing. Uh and then I think after that we go there's the reason the cops ended up at the last location is because
The
Dave
warrant
Shet
for the
uh
no dick, wasn't
yeah,
it?
the
Yeah.
landlord who also shows up there too.
And gets
Which
fucking yeah.
my favorite shoot of the whole movie was that day. We have so much action going on.
Yeah.
We did most of that. I think it's all in one day. Maybe it was split into two, but I seem to remember it as one day.
Either way, a short amount of time to do all that shit. Like even if
Yeah.
it was 2 days, that's a small window, to do a lot and clean a lot up and reset a lot and do what you need to do.
And then
Can I
so
say
yeah,
something really quick though? I
yep.
love the way that the neck brace looked no dick up and down at the police station, dude. That was when she's like, "Oh, I'll take you to go get the form," and she's just, scarred all over. I'm like, who are these people? And that's where it felt like Twin Peaks. I'm like, it doesn't matter, like, because they showed up somehow in this weird, quirky way. But the fact that she looks my man up and down and is like, "Oh, I'll get your fucking form. Let's go, baby." It was
Yep.
good, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I like the
So
little moments.
yeah, the little moments, the little things. So that's getting everyone, and now we have Ash and his guys also going towards the house because this is the last location that you said brings everybody together.
Yeah, this is
Um,
where because we've mentioned, you mentioned David Lynch. David Lynch was definitely inspiration on this one for Jonathan. I know that for a fact. He's big into David Lynch, and but also the kind of you're talking about all these kind of different stories and different places, and they all kind of wrap up into the
right.
end. It gives. I always tell people it's got a Pulp Fiction vibe to it too, where you got all these kind of random stories that are somehow.
Cut and paste vignettes almost, but then it does come back around and ties
Yep.
up. Yeah, at the end.
Uh,
This is a good ending, dude. I love
yeah, the action scenes, they were so much fun to shoot. Like, and then the big scene. I mean, can we get into the
Yeah,
mask? So
yeah.
like that was the big reveal, and like so that was Dave was busy. I mean, he had to be in makeup all day, so I was doing a lot. Uh, and then
Because
when
he's attacking is she the caseworker, social worker, caseworker for Nina, who
oh
is there,
that's
or was that a little bit earlier? Because I thought she
you see
was
that's early, so
with
that's later. That's later. That's at the
oh,
very
okay.
very end.
Oh, gotcha.
First,
Okay, yeah.
first we got all these action scenes in the house where so like it's Ash is in there. The henchman just got yes, he got smashed, comes out of the shed. Then you got the detective rolls up with Nina and he's like, and then he gets the big whack.
Right.
Uh
After the chief got hit in the house, because Chief
Not yet.
falls out the front. Oh, okay,
The
yes, yes,
chief,
okay.
and I love the shot. I love
I
this
do too,
shot of
man.
the
It was a
chief
good
where
one.
he just falls through the door kind of awkwardly. Like I feel like in a big budget film, you would never see that shot. They'd just be
No.
like, "No, that looks tacky," but it looks great to me. I
And
thought,
one of my personal favorite shots in all of in all of anything I've ever seen is Arbogast falling down the stairs in Psycho. And that's a
Okay.
weird shot. You know, it's different.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it before. I like when people do weird things, dude. I think it's fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're right, though. You get too many hands in the pot. And I think that's where a lot of movie making starts losing some of the passion. Like you said, you know, you get too big of a budget and you probably wouldn't have been able to do it, you know, and get
Yeah.
away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, so the sheriff comes in through the door, pointing his gun at Ash, telling him to drop it. Ash makes the move, shoots him, detective dies. Ash then turns around and I can't remember if Sine, I think that's when Sine comes in, and then Harvey comes in to kind of like save her, right?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and th
Because the
that
chief
scene,
draws down
those,
on Ash. Yeah, because the chief
yep,
draws down on Ash, and then he's like, "Don't you
yep,
fucking move!" And that's when things go bad, and you get that kind of Reservoir Dogs, bang, 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 you
yep.
know, or the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it was really
And
good.
I thought the special effects played off well. We didn't do a lot of practical in there. Just the action scenes are all practical, of course, but I thought the special effects worked out decent for the budget.
Absolutely, man.
And
Absolutely.
then the
You didn't
and
over
then the
rely
big
on them
reveal.
either. Yeah.
The big reveal. So yeah, Ash kicks him, and then I think he hits him with something, and then that breaks the mask a little bit. And he finally, also before all this happens, my favorite part of the film, nobody else will say this, just me. Uh, there's that little section, that doorway, the beads thing. When he
Oh,
comes through,
yeah.
he just rips it off. I was the
Yeah.
only one cheering because I hated that thing so much. Uh, I had to put that thing up so many times because it would just constantly be falling throughout the production for continuity. And when he just rips it off, I'm like, you know what? Like, we're keeping that because it was so satisfying for me.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, anyways, he gets smashed and he just tears off that mask, and we finally get the reveal of Milton's face, and it is beautiful.
It really is. It really is. I am a sucker for a good makeup job, you know, and I think I even saw the one girl might have had a patch on from Lon Chaney from London After Midnight. And I was like, dude, somebody and so yes, you know, going back to the real makeup and stuff like that, it this looked I was happy, man. I was
Yeah,
happy with how this looked. I was like, that's fucking scary to have walking
yeah,
at you. Nobody wants that.
yeah. That's a whole day of makeup too. A shout out to Jonathan for doing that so often too, because going through that type of makeup work is a lot of work. You got it's
I can
you're putting
imagine this
lots of
is awesome.
layers. You got to sit still. I'd be cranky.
I can imagine a lot of people would, man. But
Yeah,
shit, it worked out really well.
yeah.
And there's a slight struggle, and this is where we get the social worker.
So this is, yeah. And then the social
Right.
worker kind of sees them. I think she follows Sine because after, Harvey's having this big battle with Ash, Sine runs out, and the social worker sees her run and follows her, and then they end up back at that the Hicks, the hillbillies like place
Right.
again, and
Yeah.
he delivers that line that's every Tarzan needs a Jane.
Right.
I love that line so much.
It was
Uh,
it was good.
yeah. And yeah, and then that comes to the final battle, which is, and it is, I you do feel a little bit, I do feel sad uh when you see him, like, she has to shoot her friend. And the shot, I love the shot too. The shot where I mean, we slow-mo it, which I like too. And it's just a turn, and you can kind of see how sad he is. Like, he's like, and almost like disappointed in himself too, I feel like.
Yeah, because
Like,
even when she said at one point earlier on, you know, that was bad. I think we even see him kind of, you know, hitting himself or being, you know, self-destructive at the fact. So he is responding like maybe he does. There is something in there that's not just killing machine.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and she
And
does. She has to put one in him, and then
yep.
I
And then
want to
we
say we 12 years later.
yeah, 10 or 12, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh Yeah, and then yeah, I feel like that decompress. We had that last bit
You
just to
can
kind of
breathe. Yeah.
decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is good though, because it does set up, I think, a lot more for, and you know what? I think people should watch this, and I'm going to leave those last like 10, 15 minutes out because I
Okay.
think you
Yeah.
should watch this and see what comes up right at that end because I was actually pretty happy about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, keep doing some more
Okay.
shit, man. Like keep doing some more shit. Let's see where this could go.
Yeah.
But we do get, to see a much grown Nina still with the social worker. We can say that. She said she's been in the hospital, I think, for a while,
Hmm.
and is now kind of because the social worker gives her a room and she says, hey, and she's like, I haven't had a room by myself. I shared it with another girl for the last however many years.
Yep.
And then we get a few more minutes of some really cool stuff that, yeah, I think people should watch this thing and then you get to find that thing out.
Yeah.
Um,
This
Jason,
was fun.
or not Jason, ass to mouth.
Yeah.
Ash Two
Ass
Mouth.
to mouth. What else do you got, dude, before we go into some scoring and things like that?
Yeah. I got a couple questions for Nick. One, how much did you guys sit around and actually talk about like the tone of this film? Because I could see it being something that would easily get away from somebody.
That's Jonathan. Jonathan has this is his tone. The I mean, he's big on the like. I think if you watch at the beginning, it says the Holbrookian
Yeah, horror.
production. Like
Yeah.
he's got a style. I like his style a lot. It's got like a mix of Lynchian vibes to it. I will say, like, I as a filmmaker, I worked on this. I critique it all the time too. I critique all the stuff I work on. I wish, like, because this was big for me. We got picked up for distribution through Lionsgate on this. I know it shows Indie Can when you
Right.
pull it up, but when it's listed on the internet, it's put out there by Lionsgate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Uh, yeah, and then like I think it was contingent. So like when he wrote it, like when he like got this deal with them, he was like very strict with them about not editing at all.
I could
For
tell
like
that like
pacing and stuff.
he had Final Cut editing,
He
and
did. And
yeah, I don't think
I
this movie needed to be 3 hours long.
It didn't. I could probably cut. I mean, if you want to be brutal, if you want to be brutal, you probably cut an hour, right?
Yeah,
Like
do
I
that.
I could probably do it. But the thing is you gotta remember, and I try to always tell people this is you have so many people volunteering their time on these.
Totally.
And for you to take them out of the film when they volunteered that time to you
Right.
would it's brutal. It's brutal,
Mm.
and I can understand not wanting to do that. So I'm gonna defend that part of it too. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it obviously doesn't need to be 3 hours. But
See, and I
and
was totally fine with it being 3 hours. I was like, I want like 7 more hours, but I want it refined a little bit.
yep,
And I want it
yep,
episodic, but I want to know these stories, man. I want to know who all these crazy people are that keep showing up with shit all over but I like them. It's not that
yeah.
it's people just for people's sake. It's actually people that I'm like, okay, I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I can see
But I
this
think
working in the series for sure.
Yeah, but I think for a lot of people, especially in today's world, runtime is a huge barrier to jumping into watching something. It is a big
So
barrier.
yeah, when you go to film school, and as somebody that worked at Blockbuster, who like I look, I'd like to argue I've been doing market research since I've been like 18, because I worked at Blockbuster, and I just had to know what certain people would like based off of what they would rent. And it's just like, yeah, you're especially with like the short form stuff. Short form's way more popular now, like TikTok
Right.
and all the social media. And I'm not gonna bash it. It's just there's a lot less work that goes into that versus long form. A
Yeah.
long form, you it takes a lot more time. So you want to put that's why you want to put that work into it because you're going to be taking so much time from people
Yeah.
that you want to put a lot of thought into it. So it's just I don't know, man. where was I with that? I lost my train of
No,
thought.
no, that's all
Just
right,
the
man.
time
Yeah.
limit, but yeah, I totally
Yeah, how
agree with
about the
you.
runtime? Yeah, we were
Because
just
Yeah.
without the 3 hour runtime, you would have lost a lot of those little moments
you
that
would
make
have you
this
would have
thing
had a
so
racer head.
good.
You would have had a racer head.
Right.
Had
Yeah.
David Lynch been able to do a racer head at like 4 hours, he probably had like I don't remember how many years it took him to make that shit, like 7 or something, but it was a long
Yeah.
time. But if you would have let him off the chain, I think we would have had a 4 hour racer head. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It is so like, what the fuck? We got little chicken, and now we got a radiator lady, and now you got this, and now you got that. So, in my
I
opinion,
always
runtime serves this.
I always think of Richard Linklater's what is it? It's one of his first films. It's in Austin and there's no real storyline.
The
Oh, Slacker. Slacker.
yes, yes.
So I always think of Slacker when I think of Love of Beast a little bit, just in the sense that it's so long. And you really you have to be somebody I think that can enjoy a film that long to enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that because I know a lot of people who just don't. They
Yep.
don't. They
I
say,
always recommend intermission. Do an intermission. Intermissions are fun anyways, right? Like I want those coming back. It seems like they're coming back. I like intermissions. It's fun to have a little break and then go back in.
you
Mhm.
should go back and watch it and find the optimal spot for an intermission and let people know that and be like, hey,
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
5 minute breather right here. This is a great stopping point right there. But
I think I got your moment. I think when did I do it? I did it right before all the like I think I cut it off right before the scene where the mechanic gets bashed. Like right before all the action starts taking place. I think it's about an hour and 20 minutes in. It's
great.
about halfway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
That
spot.
way, yeah.
I mean, my wife, I love this woman more than I've ever loved another human being. And her favorite movie is Gone with the Wind. And so we watch that shit quite a bit. And that beast, man, at least they give it to you right there. They're like, intermission. And that shit, you know what I mean? Like, go to
Yep.
the bathroom. And it does hurt my heart a little bit that people are getting away from, the bigger stories. Because I think when the bigger stories are done well, they can be really cool, or
Yep.
at least entertaining the idea. I also have a lot of people that are like, I just hate subtitles. And I'm like, dude, that kind of sucks. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I understand it. But at the same time, like, there's so much,
Yeah,
there's
you're gonna miss
a well of great cinema from all over the world.
Korean cinema is like up there for me as like some of the top.
Yeah.
Like well the what's the one that won the Oscar like a couple years ago? Parasite.
Oh,
Parasite. That
yeah.
one was great. And then the there's the one with the monster that's old.
Host, the host.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and I
That one's one
really
of my
like
favorites.
I Saw the Devil. If you
Yep.
haven't, oh dude, I Saw the Devil is just like, phew. But yeah,
Okay.
Korean, like South Korean, they do amazing shit over there, man. And
Yep.
what's the why can't I think of the name now? The big zombie one. Train to Busan was really
Oh,
good. Yeah, it was really
yep.
solid as well.
That
And then,
guy didn't. No, that's not Snowpiercer. Not the same thing. Never mind.
no, Snowpiercer was fucking cool too, though. The movie. I
Yeah.
haven't watched any of the series, but there was a couple moments in that movie where I was like, "Damn, what? You're getting me. You're getting me." Okay, so let's do this thing. Let's see. Out of 5 exploded no dick veterans, we'll start with we'll start with you, Nick. Out of 5, how many do you give this thing that you worked on? How many do you give? If you were recommending it to someone and being, it's so hard to be unbiased. It's so hard to be unbiased. But if you were to say out of 5, how many would you give this thing? And
Um,
ass to
that's
mouth.
so hard.
You know,
Uh,
let's bring you to the end. Why don't we put ass to mouth
okay,
on the
okay, yeah,
spot
I'll
and
think
then we'll
about
come
it.
back to you. Okay, ass to mouth. Now, I know that Nick's your homie and shit like that, but if you're unbiased, we try to be as unbiased as possible. Out
Be
of 5,
brutal.
how many? Out of 5, how many are you giving this thing, dude?
Man, taking the Nick connection out of it, I give it a 3.5 because
Ah,
I would watch it again. I think it's a great freaking movie. I think there's more there to see than you can see on a first viewing of it. And then just being a fan of like independent cinema, like what you guys were brought to the screen, every penny of what you guys spent on this thing is on the screen. The sound design was freaking on point. That's like the number one thing that'll take you out of an independent movie is when the sound is shitty. And this was great, dude. Whoever you had running sound like knew their shit.
A lot
Yeah.
of different people.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of random.
And that's
Yeah.
usually when things get fucked up, is
Yep.
because people that don't know how
Hey,
to use
yeah.
the sound equipment are using it, or they don't
There's
catch that, oh, there's a train or a motorcycle going by on the highway.
yeah. Uh Remote locations help. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
uh
Absolutely.
Staying away from airports and train stations to help.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought of Wayne's World when you said airport. Oh, like sitting under the plane. Okay, so I will go next before we put you on the spot, Nick, to grade your own movie.
Yep.
I'm actually going a 4 out of 5, dude.
Yeah.
This now, okay, so ass to mouth knows me. I like things that are usually, I mean, I like the quirky and different. I always have, you know, that like you said, the Kevin Smiths of the world. But then I'm a huge fan of like Takashi Miike, who just does these wild fucking Yakuza movies about killer chihuahuas and shit. I like David Lynch. I like the Coen brothers. I like things that aren't taking themselves too seriously, but somehow they capture something that's just right enough. Now he will disagree with me on some things that we've watched, like The Greasy Strangler. I think it's fucking
Fuck that
fantastic.
movie.
Yeah, ass to mouth doesn't like it. With a name like that, you really should like it. But this movie did something for me, you know. And like you said, there were a couple. I don't want to say technical things, but you know, the color grading, you said, you know, the sound for me, sometimes I could hear it a little bit. I could hear different people playing with it, you know, a little more. And this is coming from someone who did sound for a long time on the podcast. You know, when a certain limiter is pushed a certain way a little bit or something like that, you can hear some of that shit. And I'm okay with that, because the guts were so good. You know, the bones were so good. And you could see that people cared about this. They actually
Yep.
gave a crap to try to make it as best as you could do it. And you know, this is better than a lot of shit I've seen that's you know, way bigger budgets. That's not to say there's not big budget shit coming. Like The Substance blew my mind. I can't wait to watch it again sometime soon when you and I talked about it. But there's a lot of crap out there, and it bums me out that we live in an oversaturated market. You know, I like to look back to the days of the video store when you had a wall of like 500 different things and then a bunch of old shit that you knew you'd seen and you'd like again. But now it's the world is extraordinarily heavy with independent content, and without you, you know, ass to mouth, I would have never even seen this thing. Now I'm super happy that I did, and I'm gonna try and take it and share it with a couple of people who I know shit like this and listen to stuff like this. But yeah, for me, it's a straightforward, dude. I think because it's just the love, like you can feel it, you can just feel it in it, and it's weird. If you like, my boy Michael Strom is gonna love this shit, dude. He's gonna love it. Michael, you got to get on it like real quick, homie, because you're gonna like this one. It's very strange, and I know some other people I'm gonna recommend. So yeah, for me, it's 4 out of 5. So Nick, you are up,
Yep.
dudes. It's been, let's see, 2018, so 7 years. It's been 7 years. You've had to sit with this since you did it, look
Yep.
back on it. So today, 2025, what are you giving this thing out of 5?
All right. I'm gonna give it my professional answer. It's a 4.5 for me. I'm not gonna get perfect 5, but it's 4.5 for me.
Yeah.
This is like my baby if I have a baby, even though it's Jonathan's film. It's
Mhm.
definitely Jonathan's film. But I, got out of college and just wanted to go full steam into it, and he let me. So I appreciate him so much for letting me do that. So like I mean the 0.5 that's missing for it for me is I just wanted I wanted an editor to edit it. Like I wanted an actual editor versus a director's
Gotcha.
cut.
Right.
Because
Right.
you are getting a director's cut here. This is,
Absolutely.
the director edited it, and anytime a director edits something, it's hard to it's hard to rip your baby apart, and
Right. Right. And say you
we
don't matter as much. Yeah, it's
yeah
hard to throw that stuff away.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So where
I love.
can I know I bought it on iTunes. I know you can buy it through Apple TV or whatever. Where else can people find this thing to check it out and stuff? Do you remember? I know Google, it looked like Google Play, probably Amazon, a lot of the big ones.
Yeah, it's basically on everything.
Oh, you
I
said, yeah,
think
with
I got
Lionsgate
it on
distribution.
I got
Yeah.
it on Amazon. It used at one point it was on Amazon Prime's like free. Like if you had Amazon Prime, it was free at one point.
Oh, right
For
on.
like I think it was like the first like 2 months it was out or something like that. That was
And
kind of cool.
did they ever do a physical release for people who
Yeah.
physical media? Right on.
Yep.
So be able to
Yep.
find it.
I still have one of those. I have one copy that I keep. Yeah. And then we did do like a theatrical thing. Like it was small. I think it was part of the deal when they signed it is we get like at least one theater
One theater.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did it in LA. We made a like whole spectacle out of it. It was kind of fun. And then
Ah, dude.
we did like a big premiere in Seattle to kind of like have all the local people kind of enjoy it as well. So that
Ah,
those things were fun to do.
yeah,
Uh,
it's super
yeah.
rad. Uh,
Thanks again for having me, you guys.
oh,
This was a
dude,
lot of
no, no, this has been super rad. And before we even get into the mindfulness portion of the show, I do want to ask and give you the opportunity, is there anything you're like currently looking at doing or where people, if they wanted to see more of whatever
fun.
you're kind of following or what's going on? Yeah, take the time,
Uh,
dude. Plug it, plug it,
sure. Throw
plug
some
it,
plugs.
plug it.
All right. So this guy, I don't know if you'll ever get to see him come out. This one will come out. It's called 213 Bones. It's a horror film that was shot in Spokane. A lot of it was at Eastern's campus, and then a couple houses around South Hill. Train Dreams. I'm just gonna keep throwing out movies. I've been
Dude,
working.
go, go, go.
Train Dreams just went to Sundance and got picked up by Netflix. So that will be out sometime. I'm hoping sometime this year, but that might be a dream.
Hey,
Uh
dude, Dreed, there's no reason. I mean, people have already done it. There's no
yeah,
reason that can't be you. You know what I mean? There is zero reason that, and you're already on a good path, dude. You're putting out
yeah,
cool shit, but keep going. I don't want to
I
cut you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Last one. Oh wait, no, two more. Two more. All right. Penelope, that one's actually out right now on Netflix. That one I was a runner PA on. That one was all shot on the west side in Seattle area. Actually, that one was really cool. Probably the most visual project I've worked on. Just like this was a big production. It was a Duplass Brothers production.
Oh, dude, two
Um,
of my favorite cats ever that create shit, man.
yep.
Oh,
The
that's
fluff, wait,
awesome,
the
dude.
pink fluffy chair, whatever, the fluffy chair. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So,
Oh,
and then, oh yeah, and his Shutter, the new Shutter series they're doing for what is
Creep.
it? Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude, I
I
love
haven't seen it
Creep
yet.
and Creep 2 so much. I haven't seen the series yet, but
Okay, good.
everything
Yeah.
and just yeah. And there was also that thing that Mark did with what was it? Ray Romano, the cancer one that was on Netflix that if you
Yes, Paddington.
Paddington, that one, I
Or
remember
yeah,
getting to the end of that and just being it was the game they played. Yeah, the Paddington.
yep. That
And I
one was a
remember,
heartbreaker, man. I had lost a friend to cancer like
I'm
when
sorry.
that came out, and it just broke my heart. I was like,
Can't
damn,
imagine
dude.
it wouldn't do because that one really was. They touched on humanity in that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going, dude. Please. Yeah, you said you had
Okay.
more to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Penelope is on Netflix. That one's been out. That one actually broke the top 10 for the first week it was out. So that was
No
that was a
shit.
huge deal. Yeah.
And what did you do on that one?
I was just a runner on that one. So a
Don't
runner.
ever say I was just. Don't ever say I was because everything you do,
Fair.
even if it seems small, that's getting you a step. You know what I mean? That's forward
Yeah.
momentum. I was a runner on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. So
Ooh.
yeah, I was a runner, but I was their only runner on a big production. So I would start the day out in the office, and then they'd give me the list of things I have to go pick up for the day, and I'd kind of circle around the like region of the West Side, grabbing all these things, and then I'd by the end of the day wind up at set, and then I'd drop off stuff. One cool thing that happened was there was these disco lights. It's the first scene. It's actually the first shots of the
The
show.
trippy. Was it the oh no. You're talking about Penelope. I thought you
Yeah,
guys
Penelope.
about
Sorry, Penelope.
no. Go ahead. Which I am
There's
going to
these
watch now that I know it's there. I will definitely check it out when we're done.
there's these disco lights that I had to pick up from Pacific Grip and Light in Seattle. And when I grabbed them, they were like, "Hey, these are plug and play. Don't mess with it because if you mess with any of the buttons, it's gonna screw up what we've programmed."
Right.
I dropped it off, told everybody, I was like, plug and play. I kind of knew, like, anytime you're on a big set, you know somebody's gonna
Gotta
mess with the
fucking
buttons at
press
some
the
point.
red button, dude. You got to press
So,
the red button.
so the guy told me, he's like, if for some reason somebody screws up the programming, this is how you fix it. So they had to actually keep me on for that because I was the only one that like knew how to fix it.
Oh,
So that was like a special thing I got to do. That was kind of fun. There was a wolf on set that day, which was really cool.
If there's a
Yeah.
wolf anywhere, that's really cool. But
Yeah.
being able to have one that, because wolves are way fucking bigger than people think they are.
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
massive.
Uh,
So what is
okay.
it? Can you tell me a little bit more about Penelope? Like what I'm unfamiliar. Like you're just pitching
Okay.
it to me. You got 30 seconds, giving somebody
Okay.
the idea what it is. Please, I'd like to hear about it.
Okay. It's a coming of age story for a young teenage girl who, instead of focusing on like teenage drama type of stuff, she is running away from home and living out in the wilderness. So it's focusing more on like survival and um more like what coming of age through that versus like your teenage drama.
Your typical coming of age story.
Yeah.
That's kind of badass. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could dig on that, especially as a
And
kid.
the visuals are probably some of the best visuals I've seen. Like it displays Pacific Northwest better than anything I've seen in the last like 5 years. So
And I miss that, man. Like I said, I lived out there for a little while, and I used to hike the what was it, Silver Creek Falls, when I
yep.
lived just close to Silver Creek, and some of the, yeah, I mean, it's nice to see people exploiting that because that shit is gorgeous. It
Yeah.
is gorgeous. Oh,
It's nice to see a film based in the Pacific Northwest actually filmed in the Pacific Northwest.
you're
Because a
right.
lot of the time they jump over us to go to like Vancouver, which I know it's still Pacific Northwest, but it's not Washington.
Right, right. It's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Man, super cool, dude. And I'll try and see if we can, you can email me some of the links and stuff to some of your
Yeah, for
projects.
sure.
I'd love to put that in the show notes. So you had kind of mentioned earlier, and Jason had or ass to mouth. I love that I switched from that to just ass to mouth.
Yeah.
Like, so, it's kind of late here. So he had mentioned, this idea of bringing loss to the mindfulness table. And loss is, and I would like you to take a couple seconds before I even get there. You had mentioned, and forgive me, was it Earl?
Yes. So yeah,
Okay.
Earl Grey
Like
is
the
actually,
tea.
yeah, that's his
Yeah,
name.
just like the tea. Why
Yeah.
don't you tell us a little bit about Earl, and then we'll talk a little bit about, loss as a whole, and just, say something to my man. Say something about
Yeah,
my man's if you would like. Take a couple seconds.
I will. Okay. Yeah, Ash, Earl Grey played Ash in the film, which was, the guy who is not to be named, right? Yeah, he was also a big part of getting this film done. Like he was an executive producer on it. I'm pretty sure he probably put some money in. But he helped get locations and he definitely jumped on audio at times when we needed him to. So it's just uh he was a great guy, but just big guy in the west, just the west side of the state's like art community in general, and very involved in like the community and trying to like activism as well. Like he was strong into activism and just trying to make the community a better place. And yeah, it was kind of a bummer to hear a couple of days ago he had passed. I don't know what happened, but it's just it was a bummer to hear. He was a big part of this film, and so it was kind of ironic that I was doing this. Like I had set this up before that had happened.
Right, right.
And
Because I
so
mean, yeah, we talked about it. I know it was prior to that for sure, because I've known
yeah,
at least for a week and and a half, 2 weeks. I think
yeah,
when he first reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to do this thing?" And so yeah, that's pretty fresh, man. And for
yeah,
somebody who, like you said, who was instrumental, and that's not to move too quickly, but that's one thing I love about art and about creation is that it does outlive your physical presence, and it might not be, and this is what I wanted to talk about. I guess I'll get right there with the mindfulness portion. You might not ever see the fruit of the seeds you plant in the world. The way this dude impacted you is going to have an impact on every piece of art you do probably from here on out. And I'm sure you weren't the only person he ever knew.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, like, dude, probably, like you said, he was very involved and activist in the community. How many seeds did he plant without even knowing? He was just going around helping artists, most likely here and there. Nobody's
Yep.
perfect or anything like that, but I think I've seen it with my own eyes that, there are people who want to help other artists grow and help the community grow and see something bigger. And I take it as our communal responsibility to ensure that we look at those people, and remember those people who helped us come up in the world and do these things, the mentors that did it, and recognize that in us, they are still alive in a lot of ways, without to sound too esoteric, but within us, they are still alive in so many ways, this generational knowledge. I talk about tattooing with a lot of my clients. I'm like, it's so cool to me that as soon as we figured out how to color on each other, we started doing it. As soon as we were like, yo, I'm gonna rub some like charcoal in you and just like cut you with a rock and we're gonna tattoo each other. So that's a really long story. And so even though loss is heavy, it's one of the, especially personal relationships, it is extraordinarily heavy, even when it's expected, when it's not expected. It is the price of caring about someone. The loss you feel, the hurt that you feel is the price. It is the consequence that we all pay for bearing ourselves a little bit, raw to be open with another human being and to do that stuff. That is but that's also the reward is you had good relationships and people that were fucking cool to you because being by yourself forever sucks. But loss, is as hard as it is, I do think we bear some of the responsibility to carry that stuff on, and to use it as an opportunity to look at the finite nature of ourselves, of human beings. We're just all, and to value that time even a little bit more and say, you know what, I'm gonna put some good shit out there into the world, just like my man did, or just like my person did. I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna carry on the tradition. And before you know it, you may have helped somebody who you might not see the result for like 300 years. You might help a kid who's gonna have a fucking kid who's gonna do something else, but it was one little act of kindness that changed somebody's fucking whole trajectory, dude. For you could have went onto a movie set theoretically, and it was the worst experience of your life. And you were like, fuck this. It ruined me, like it made me not want to do this anymore. Whereas you had cats like this, who it sounds like Earl, was a cool cat. It sounds like he was a cool dude to be around, and he helped to make this thing happen. So we can actually dedicate this whole episode to that cat right there. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that.
Earl Grey, the name that's easy to remember because I love that breakfast tea. But
Did you ever,
take the time. Take the
sorry,
time.
this is random.
Oh, go
Did
ahead.
you ever
No.
get you ever get those Earl Grey teas that gave you the little figurines?
Absolutely.
The collectible ones?
Yes. Yes.
I used to get
For
those
sure.
as a kid all the time.
They used to
Sorry,
give
I
me
was,
everything. No, our cereal box always had something cool to collect in it. Now you don't get collectible anything. There's like you don't get anything for free. But yeah, man, that's and loss is always tough.
yeah.
But we
I think
can do some cool with it. And please, yeah, what would you like to add to any of this? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
yeah, loss sucks and grief sucks. But I think pain feels good sometimes. Feels good to feel things. Uh, and so yeah, I feel like even though it sucks, like, because yeah, in an industry like this, I get to meet so many really cool people because there's so many people that work on a film. Like, I swear I've met like probably like 1,000 people in the last year just because of all the films that I've worked on. So you really build bonds with all these people, and then you don't see them for a long time. Sometimes like 7 years, right? And then you see them again, and it's just like the last time you saw them, basically all over again. And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna miss Earl. He was an inspiration. He'll definitely be a piece of me for the rest of my life. And I completely agree with you about like how like when someone passes away, they kind of plant the seed, and all the people that they kind of touched kind of continue their story. I think it's our job to honestly continue other people's story as humans,
And
right?
whose story are we? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we're a continuation of somebody's story, and that's cool. Like, why not try to make our little branch a bright fucking flower or some shit, if we can. Man, but
absolutely.
Earl, dude. What about you, ass to mouth? You got any thing you want to add?
Well, Nick was kind of that guy for me on my film that we worked on together because I applied to a freaking Facebook ad, had never worked on anything before, had just also gotten out of school. And I showed up, they had like a luncheon that first day to like where all the grips were and all the everybody's gonna get to meet each other, all the PAs. We're gonna meet for the first time. And Nick was kind of on that show beforehand, and I don't even know if you were ever even hired on that show, but you were there a lot, it seemed like, and you
Mhm.
kind of were setting things up for everybody. But Nick was the first guy who like handed me an olive branch and was like, "Hey, dude," like, and I was like, "Dude, I'm so fucking scared. I don't know what to do." And
Yeah.
he was just like so cool and inviting and was like, "Don't worry, dude. Like, I'm gonna show you what you need to do." And he was always cool like that to me. And then he went off and left, and I felt like I lost my boy that was gonna like keep me under his wing the whole time, you know.
Yeah.
But he came back around at the end too, and just it was always nice to see him. And he was always that guy that was like, if you need anything, like just ask me, bro, and I'll help you out. And that meant so much to me because
Oh man,
this really scary situation, not so scary.
Well, and
I
that's like
appreciate that.
that's a planted seed right there. I mean, you just described it, dude. Like somebody reached that, you know what I mean? And he might not have ever known that had we also three sat there.
No, because
That's
we were
all.
always so busy working. And
Yeah.
even at the
Yeah.
party, like afterwards, there were so many people to say hello to and everything. And it just kind of ended so fast. I was like, fuck, I never got to like tell Nick that I love
Oh
him.
man, I appreciate it. I love you too, Jason. I love you too, man. You're a pleasure to work with, man. You've got great humor, uh, and you're a great personality.
Thanks.
Uh, Man, I'd love to have. I hope we get to work again more in the future. Like I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll
for
be on
sure. I'm
something
a
else.
free agent now, so I could do it again.
Yeah, there you go.
Finally free. And you go over there to Bend, man. Go over there to the high desert. You got the desert and the mountains right there. Be a great place to shoot some scary cannibal family movies.
Oh yeah.
Right. So yeah, man, that's it for this episode of the Horror Pop Extravaganza. Nick, we just want to extend another huge thank you to you for being here, giving us all
Yeah.
those insights. For everyone listening, I'm gonna do my absolute best to put all the little links in the show notes so you can click and find this flick because I think you should check it out. It was a ton of fun. Highly recommend it. And yeah, until next time, I have been Pops Ghostly,
I'm Ash to Mouth.
and
And
this
Nick Shargas.
and Nick Shargas. The mouth. You never go ass to mouth.